Started again. My name is Jan Davies, and I'm with Friendswood ISD, and I'm joined today with Edie Fitzgerald from Pearland ISD, and we are hosting our Lunch and Learn training today. We are excited to introduce Allison Schaberg as our guest speaker. Allison is a passionate advocate for the special needs community. She provides advice, education, and consultation services for families. As a parent of special needs children, she understands the concerns of families. Allison is with Consolidated Planning Group and has over 25 years experience as a financial planner. She has helped many families successfully plan for their lifelong needs of their children. Allison will be sharing important information with us on Medicaid waivers, Social Security eligibility, and mistakes to avoid in preparing for your child's future. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much for having us here today. So as she said, I'm Allison Schaberg, Consolidated Planning Group. Consolidated Planning Group is a holistic special needs planning firm. We are in the greater Houston area, Sugar Land, and we serve the entire state of Texas. In fact, we have clients all throughout the U.S., not just in Texas. So we're super excited to be here with you today. And quite honestly, as she said, I too have kids with special needs. And what I would say is that navigating all of these things has been difficult. So I do this for a living. This is what I do. So I'm a professional and I'm a parent. I have kids that are a child that's still a minor. I have an adult with disabilities. And so I'm kind of, running through that transition time in our life was pretty difficult, even with my background and my knowledge that I have. So from an education standpoint, Consolidated Planning Group is excited to present these topics. We do a lot of educational events, really on a weekly basis on all topics related to special needs. So today we're going to talk about Texas waivers, okay, understanding and how to navigate. What do we need to know about the Texas waiver system? So I like to call the Texas waivers or the wait list or the interest list. Those are some of the names that they throw around with this. I like to call this a buzzword when it comes to special needs, because it's something as parents, it's something that we hear all the time. And sometimes, especially if you're new to Texas, you don't understand, what does this mean? How do I get on the list? Am I already on the list? Why is the waiting list so long? And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. So, okay, so to get started here today, we're basically talking about a number of waivers here. So on the screen here, we've got the class waiver, the community living assistance and support services. We have deaf, blind with multiple disabilities. And we're going to talk more about that because it's not one or the other. We got home and community-based services, which is HCS. We got Texas Home Living. Medically Dependent Children's Program, MDCP. We have the Star Plus waiver. And then we have the Youth Empowerment Services for the, also known as the YES waiver. So all of these waivers, most of these waivers are designed to prevent individual with disabilities, typically with IDD, IQs below 70, from being institutionalized. So they're supposed to waive off some of the expenses. It might pay for a care attendant. There's a number of things that these services pay for. But ultimately, the design of these waivers is to prevent an individual from being institutionalized and instead be able to be a more community-based programs and things like that. Okay. So talking about the class waiver. So basically, again, this class waiver, it's providing supports to children and adults with disabilities. And again, typically what they're looking at, most of these waivers are to include the diagnosis of IDD. So one of the things that we should talk about here is if your child doesn't have a diagnosis of IDD, intellectual disability, or IQ below 70, 75, should you have your child on the list? And I would argue the answer is yes, okay, because we don't know. I've seen families where things have changed. We have some families that definitively their loved ones fall into that category. We have other families that might be on the cusp of it and they're not quite there, but it could change later. So because these waiting lists can be quite long, 15 to 17 years, the sooner you get on these lists, the better. Okay, so basically on that class, the class waiver. So there's like 200 related conditions, and so of course we can't name all of these, but basically these conditions must have occurred prior to the age, the child's age turning 22. Okay. So the deaf, blind, multiple disabilities, this is going to give service for children and adults who are deaf and blind, and the word is and, not or. And actually the slide should say and have a related condition. So deaf, blind, and a related condition. So maybe IDD, maybe they have another underlying diagnosis. Okay. So then we have the HCS, and this basically is going to give the services and supports to children and adults with intellectual disability or related condition who live with their families in their own homes or small group homes with no more than 4 people. Okay. So one of the other ones, we've got MDCP. This is going to give the services to children and adults who are 20 and younger and are medically fragile. The Star Plus home and community based. This is for adults over age 21 to keep them in their community and not in a nursing home facility. And we've got our Texas Home Living, which is going to give services to children and adults with intellectual disability or related condition who live in their own home or their family's home. So the yes waiver is one that is actually it may be the only one. I mean, I see MDCP quite a bit and then the Star Plus, but the yes waiver is basically a Medicaid program that gives home and community-based services to children under the age of 19 with serious mental, emotional, or behavioral difficulties. And the yes waiver is a wraparound program. And so this waiver, there's typically not a long waiting list, if any waiting list at all, on this yes waiver, because a lot of people don't know about the yes waiver. It's one of the newer ones that have come up over the years. But who is a good fit for this yes waiver? So first of all, it's based off of the child's income, not the parents. So thinking, oh my gosh, I make too much money and my child doesn't qualify for this. That's not the case. So it's based off of the child's qualifications for Medicaid. But if you have a child, ADHD, autism, ODD, I always call it the alphabet soup. We've got bipolar, the oppositional defiance, a lot of the initials, all of these, the new one that they like to throw around lately is the disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, DMDD. These are kids that might be experiencing with drugs. They may have run away. They may have been in fights in school. Maybe they've been expelled, or maybe they've had some run-ins with the law or things like that. But it could be, a combination of, anxiety, depression, anger, kind of all of those things. This is a wraparound program. It's really good. So if you don't know about that, and any of those conditions that I mentioned, basically any of the initials that come along with any of the acronyms or the initials that come along with mental health issues kind of fall under that umbrella with the yes waiver. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but it's a really good program and you should definitely check it out, because what we see is a lot of families struggle. We know that a lot of families struggle when some of their kids have some of the mental health issues. But some of the struggle is that insurance doesn't pay for the psychologist or the psychiatrist, and it's all out of pocket. And every time you go, it's $150 to $180, those types of things. And your loved one definitely needs support, but you certainly can't, throw down $500 a month or things like that. So that, that may be where that comes into play, or it can augment what you're already doing. Okay. So waiver general eligibility. So basically most waivers are for all ages, for the exception of MDCP, which is for minors, and Star Plus, which is for 21 and over. For the financial eligibility when it comes to waivers, Everything except for the Texas Home Living is within 300% of SSI, which right now that number is $2,313. It does not look at parental income. So we're looking at your loved one should not have more than that amount sitting out there in their name. Individuals must meet the functional eligibility criteria for the specific waiver, but it is important to know that you don't have to prove eligibility to get on the list. That eligibility is determined when you come up on, to the top of the wait list. So it basically costs you nothing and it hurts you nothing to put your child on the list. And some people, the interesting thing is because of Texas, and I'm not telling everybody that this is the smartest idea, but there are some theories out here about getting yourself on the list that basically if you have a child, you should just basically, if you have a baby, you should just basically put them on the list. Because when you first have a child, you don't know if they're going to have disabilities or not. They may develop disabilities later, and because you don't have to prove eligibility to put them on the list, to get them on the list, it's proving later if you need services when you come up on the list. Some people would argue just get them on the list. Okay. Jan, I think that we may have a question in it. If we have, oh, I see it here. Do 529 accounts count towards a child's income? The 529 ABLE account does not count towards the child's income. The 529C for college is going to be in the parent's name and the child is the beneficiary. So basically, if you make a distribution from that account for the child, it would go against the child from the 529C, but as the money is just sitting there, it's basically in the parent's name, and the parent has the right to change the beneficiary at any time. So typically that is not going to count. But any other buckets other than a special needs trust, an ABLE account, or any kind of other buckets above that would be definitely counted. Okay, so 2 funding paths for waivers. So there's the interest list, the wait list, which is basically first come, first serve. It is statewide, and we kind of talked about the wait can be as long as 14 years. There are some things that Texas does really, really well. There's some things that, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and this is something that we hope that the interest list will change and will go down, and that they'll have more funding for it in the future. And we're currently in a legislative session right now. But the truth of the matter is the interest and the wait lists that we have here are very long. Okay, so it's about promoting independence. And again, the whole design of these waivers is basically to prevent or divert an individual from institutions. Okay, so it also addresses crisis, and we're going to talk about a crisis diversion slot here in just a minute. It also helps individuals move or transition from institutions and get back into the community.
We have another question.
Okay, sure, read it to me.
What about the UTMA account?
Okay, so the UTMA account, that is, yeah. So that becomes, as soon as the child turns 18, that money becomes theirs on the UTMA account. We don't see those very often anymore, but for a UTMA account, if that is something that I would divert to another child, or I would cash it out and spend it on something for the benefit of that child. So the UTMA account would be counted because it moves into their name. Once they become age of majority, the UTMA account becomes their asset. Okay, so let me get back here. Okay, so wait list and what is LIDA? Okay, so basically, the questions that we get a lot are how do we get on these wait lists? Okay, so you basically you have to contact your LIDA. So this is like the local intellectual disability authority is what that equates to. Class, some of the other waivers. So on one thing you can call, so like for instance, I've got some information in here, but like Fort Bend County, our LIDA is Texana. Okay. For Harris County, the LIDA is Harris Center, which used to be MHMRA. Okay. So basically if you're not on the list and you want to get on the list, You would think that it would be as easy as just like going to a website and putting yourself on the list, but it doesn't really exactly work like that. And so you do need to contact your local authorities so you can get yourself on the list, and also be aware that that class has a separate phone number. The MDCP class and the deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities waiver has a separate phone number to get on that list as well. Okay. Promoting independence. So let's talk about this, a crisis diversion. So if you or your loved one is in crisis, you can contact your LIDA and tell them that you would like to request an HCBS crisis diversion waiver. Now, is this a solution for everybody? So this is that person that has 10 years left on the list. They've been on the list for a long, long time. Crisis diversion slots are for true emergencies, true issues. The child is, the individual is a threat to themselves or others. They're hurting people in the home. The police are involved. Or like some examples, like we've seen before, with seniors. So I don't, with as many people as we have on the call today. I mean, I guess the ages are all across the board of the families that are living with loved ones with special needs. But we have seen where a diversion slot was granted for somebody that was like 75 or 84 years old, that was caring for a grandson, and there was nobody left. So basically, I can't do this anymore. He's aggressive. I can't sleep. I can't work. I can't get him anywhere because he's aggressive and nobody will take him. And I'm the end of the line. There is nobody else. We have no other family. And so that is an example. There's many examples of crisis diversions, where maybe a caregiver for a loved one with disabilities is chronically or critically sick or terminally ill or other things like that. So anyway, planning on a crisis diversion slot is not something that I would like widely tell you that you should plan on this and that you're going to get one. But there are such situations that you can get those, and this could be something also like a person's diagnosis changed critically. So they went from having a disability and being okay to something changed with their medical well-being, and now they're on a ventilator, or maybe they have a trach, or maybe it could be any number of those things. So and the PASRR is the diversion and transition from nursing facilities and or specialized services. I think we have another question. Jan, do you want to read that?
I answered it. They were asking about getting a recording of the presentation today.
Perfect. Yes, we will definitely put a recording out. You guys are all going to get an email of today's presentation, so you can kind of reference back. So these slots. I mean, not kind of going deep and wide. You'll get this recording, but this may be a picture that you might want to take of how do I get on the list, and who are my people. These are just the agencies that serve Pearland and Friendswood. We've got Texas Health and Human Services. We've got the Aging and Disability Resource Center, Area Agency on Aging, and of course the LIDA that I was talking about before. And then we've got the local Mental Health and Behavioral Health Authority. So this is kind of a good for the Pearland Friendswood area. I put some other ones on here. So here are some of the agencies that are going to serve Houston. We talked about the LIDA being the Harris Center. And for those that have been around in the disability community for many, many years, this is, again, like I said, formerly called MHMRA. So a lot of people still call it that because that's what it was called for so many years. So we got, again, HHS on there, the area, same stuff, just for the Houston area. Okay, and then here we have for Fort Bend County. Okay, so we were talking about the LIDA. This is, again, the LIDA is where you're going to call to get on these lists, and then also you're going to call the number for class. But the LIDA for Fort Bend County is going to be Texana Center, and there's the number for them. Okay. So this is, kind of the ominous thing. It's like, where do I get all of this information? And there is There is a lot of information about these waivers on the HHS website. There's also a lot of information for individuals with disabilities and transitioning and all kinds of stuff on a website called Navigate Life Texas. So Navigate Life Texas is another good source of information, free sources of information out there. Okay, so a couple of the things that we wanted to touch on in addition to the waivers that we were talking about is really how do I get started with special needs planning? What do I need to do? If you've got kids that are transitioning, if you've got kids that are freshmen in high school and you're thinking ahead and you're thinking of transitioning in the future, that kind of thing, we kind of want to hit on the important points of what you need to do. So first things first, you do need to work with a special needs planner to help you formulate a plan. And what we see is a lot of families put in buckets of financial planning and special needs planning, and they're two different things. And honestly, they really have come together. Okay, they come together because most families, if you're married, you've got 2 retirements. If you're single, 1 retirement. But if you have a loved one that's going to need care for the rest of their life, it's almost like another retirement. But working with a special needs planner as opposed to just a regular financial planner, a special needs planner is nuanced and knowing how to make sure that you have money in the right buckets that are not going to cause problems or cause your loved one to become disqualified from SSI and Medicaid. Okay, so uh, there's a lot of mistakes, and they're just simple mistakes that people make, and they don't mean to, that really cause a lot of havoc as far as benefit eligibility in the future. So when it comes to special needs planning, we want you to gather all the necessary planning documents. And these documents, what do they look like? Those documents are all of your financial statements, bank statements, investment statements, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, 401ks, 403bs, basically any kind of investments, any kind of insurance. What do you have with your employer? Health insurance, life insurance, disability, and what kind of insurance, risk management, protection insurance do you have outside of your employers? In addition to these planning documents, if you already have a will, you already have a trust, a special needs trust, if you already have guardianship, powers of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, those types of things, those are the necessary documents. And then we, really suggest developing a letter of intent. And so the letter of intent is something we also like to call a love letter. Okay, this is I love my child and I know everything. I eat, sleep, and breathe my child. Or my loved one with disabilities. I know what makes them tick. I know what makes them melt down. I know all the medications that they take, all of their diagnoses, when it happened, what schools they've attended, what their religious preferences are. These are all things as parents we just have in our head. We already know these things. But what if you're not here? What if you're incapacitated? What if you can't talk? And what we see is sometimes even in your own household, like maybe mom or dad, one or the other person is more responsible for these types of things than the other. But this is having it in writing. So if something happens to you, if you are gone from this earth or you are incapacitated, that somebody can pick up this letter of intent and know what your intentions are for your loved one, and kind of clearly have an understanding of everything that they need to know, names, address, and phone numbers of physicians, and all of those types of things. So we at Consolidated Planning Group, we do actually have a template for this. We share this with our clients. But this is something that you can create on your own. We suggest doing it in a Word document on a computer, like a word processor, so you can update it a couple of times a year. Or as things change for your loved one. We don't recommend doing it handwriting. I mean, you can do that, but it's so much easier to edit a Word document or something like that. So, and then also really think about your vision and how you hope things will look for your special needs child, but also for you. So your vision, you and your spouse, or if you're single, whatever. What does the vision of your future look like? Because a lot of families, we spend 25, 35, 40 years working, and we have this vision of retirement. And sometimes that vision is not as it doesn't seem as reachable if you have a loved one that's going to need care for the rest of their life. Or what am I going to do? So planning carefully sooner versus later, not waiting until you're 75 or 85 and saying, oh my gosh, I realize I'm not going to be here as long as I used to be. And now what am I going to do? But what does that look like? What does that retirement look like? Do you want to travel some? Do you need to have a respite care plan? Is this partial residential care? Is this transition programs? Is this at some point residential care? So really thinking and putting feet on what that looks like for you, and really kind of talking through some of those things can help us develop a plan for you, so that way it becomes a reality, as opposed to we hoped it would be this way and now it's not. Okay. So one of the questions that we get on a regular basis, and of course waivers help with this, how will my child's care be funded in the future? So really, first things first, we want to preserve eligibility for state and federally funded programs. I'm talking about SSI and Medicaid. You have the Social Security disability or Social Security retirement and Medicare. But basically, when it comes to SSI and Medicaid, there's income limits. There's income limits, but there's asset limits. So basically, what the limits are right now is if you're married, it's $3,000. You can have one house and one car. And if you're single, it's $2,000 and you can have one house and one car. Okay. So we hear from a lot of families that say, I'm really angry. I applied for SSI and Medicaid and we were denied. Well, prior to your child turning 18, it's based off of your assets, right? So many families don't qualify because they simply have more than $2,000 to their name, or more than $3,000 if you're married. But what happens is when your child turns 18, it's a whole nother ball game when it comes to SSI and Medicaid. It's based off of their assets, not yours. So even though your child turns 18 and they still live in your house, you still claim them on your taxes, whatever it is, you're still providing their food and shelter and things like that. They now can qualify based off of their underlying diagnosis of their disability, based off of their own assets. So even if you've been denied before, a lot of people have been denied and they never go back and never apply again because they're angry that they got denied. So you want to make a note that if your child is turning 18, or if you didn't know and your child is already 18, go ahead and apply. Okay. And you can apply the month that they turn 18. So if we know we got a birthday coming up in June, I would call now and set the appointment up for June 1st or whatever first day you can get an appointment. I would call a couple of months in advance. So the Social Security Administration is not meeting face to face right now due to COVID. They are meeting by phone. And sometimes they can be a couple of months behind. So if your child's birthday is in June and you call in June, it quite honestly could be August or September before you get an appointment. Okay. So also what we want to do as far as having money in the right buckets, how can we have more than $2,000 or more than $3,000 in that individual's name and not disqualify them for SSI and Medicaid? And the answer is basically plain and simple. It's through a special needs trust to fund their future care. You can have an unlimited amount of money in a special needs trust. Or also an ABLE account. You can have, this is again 529A. We have all kinds of presentations about ABLE accounts, and we can definitely help people set those up. But basically, an ABLE account, you can put $15,000 a year in, and you can have up to $100,000 in an ABLE account and not disqualify for SSI and Medicaid. And then the last way is, how, if I have a child, we get this question all the time. And again, I understand that everybody's journey is a little bit different. But if I have a child with disabilities that's going to need care for the rest of their life, what we find is that most people, when we're looking under the hood and we're looking at assets and what people have saved up, most people are going to need the assets that they have saved up over 35 or 40 years, 25 to 40 years, to spend 25 to 35 years in retirement. So most families are going to need the money that they've saved during retirement. So if I need the money that I've saved during retirement, then how do I fund a special needs trust? If my child needs $2.5 million worth of care, if I'm, calculating care for 15 or 30 years or whatever it is, right? if they need, $2.5 million worth of care, how do I pay for this? And the answer is, a lot of times special needs trusts are funded with life insurance. So you do what you've always done. You pay for your loved one's care needs while you're alive with current assets and current income, and you pay for their needs while you're alive in retirement with retirement assets and retirement income. And then you live your life in retirement to the fullest as you can, and do the things that you like and enjoy and want to do. Remaining assets of your retirement assets can fund the trust, but any deficit can be funded by life insurance that is on your life that will pay to the trust upon your death. Okay. So one of the things that I want to be clear on is that it is important when it comes to special needs planning. This is a critical error that we see, and it's an accident. Again, it's an accident. We don't think about it. But what we see is a lot of husbands and wife, when it comes to beneficiaries, this is how it looks. Now, when I'm talking about beneficiaries, I'm talking about life insurance and assets, any kind of investment accounts, 401ks, 403bs, and stuff like that. But usually this is how it looks. If I die, my spouse is the beneficiary. And if I die and my spouse is already dead and gone, then that's easy. My kids get the money equally. Okay. So we see that a lot. And if you've done that, you're in the 90th percentile of people that do that. Okay. So you're not alone, and it's something that you can fix. Excuse me. But what the problem with this is is when you name a special needs child, a special needs loved one, a beneficiary of your life insurance by their name outright, when you die, it goes directly to them in their name and not into a special needs trust. And then they disqualify from SSI and Medicaid. So there's the right way to do it and the wrong way. So the wrong way is to name your special needs child outright. The right way is to have a special needs trust for the benefit of your named child, and that the life insurance proceeds go into the special needs trust. So you can either A, have a special needs trust, or B, have a testamentary special needs trust under the confines of your will, which means that the special needs trust will be formed upon your death, and then the life insurance proceeds will go to the trust. So anyway, this is it's an ongoing issue, and I always like to spend time talking about that, because every single week we see issues with that. I think we may have a couple of questions.
There's another question about, what if we have guardianship? Will it still go off of our assets?
So even if the individual is above 18 years old, it will be based off of their assets and their income, even if you have guardianship. We're good? Okay.
So should we convert a 529C to a 529A is one question, and then we have another one.
Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't even bring that up, because almost every single presentation I do, that question comes up, because a lot of families, they have the 529C, they thought, they planned ahead, they saved money, and they thought that the child may be going to college, and maybe they are and maybe they're not. We don't know. So the answer is you can convert the 529C to an ABLE account. And I like the idea of conversion, because the ABLE account can pay for a lot more things than what a 529C can. So an ABLE account is about achieving a better life for the individual with disabilities. Okay. So an ABLE account can pay for college, it can pay for tutoring, it can pay for all things education, but it can pay for, it can pay for housing, it can pay for food, basically anything that you can attribute to achieving a better life for the individual with disabilities can be paid for out of an ABLE account. So the answer is, it's a good idea to do that. Do you have to do that? You don't have to, but one issue you should be aware of converting it to an ABLE account is that, because you can only contribute $15,000 a year to an ABLE account, you can only convert $15,000 a year. So if you have $150,000 sitting in a 529C plan, you can still only convert $15,000 a year. So if you're planning on converting it sooner versus later so you can get it in, it is important. Now, the other side of it, and some of the other things that we've seen too, is you can change the beneficiary on the 529C. So we also see a lot of families that they haven't necessarily put a lot of money necessarily enough to cover all of college for one particular child, like we're going to pay for some. So if we've got another kid that's going to college and you want to change the beneficiary on the 529C to the other child, that is another thing that you can do. Okay, for another question.
So my son is under Medicaid due to his condition and will be turning 18. Do I still need to make an appointment with the Social Security in order for him to receive SSI? He is not currently receiving any money.
Okay, that is a great question. I'm glad you put that out there because yes, you do. When your child is turning 18, you do need to schedule an appointment with the Social Security Administration. And again, whatever month your child turns 18, call 2 or 3 months in advance and schedule it for the month that they turn 18. It doesn't have to be the day after their birthday, but just the month that they turn 18, because this is where they kind of re-up everything. And then again, this is where they'll go from the qualifying for SSI. They may have been getting Medicaid, but now they'll qualify for SSI. So that is a great question. Definitely put that on your list of something to do. And like I said, call early, get that appointment set. Usually when you're applying for SSI and Medicaid, it can take, there are presumptive disabilities. There's a long list of presumptive disabilities with the Social Security Administration, which they kind of fast track those. But usually you can expect that whole process to take 12 weeks. I say 12 weeks. The Social Security Administration says 3 months. I say it could take 6. But if you just tell yourself 6, you're not disappointed when it comes in at 4 or whatever. But it takes some time. And if you have, like one of those presumptive disabilities is Down syndrome, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole big long list, and you can Google that and look at that. But those are going to be fast tracked, and they're going to move a little bit quicker.
Okay, and the next question is, can assets from an ABLE account just be transferred to a special needs trust if it starts to get close to 100,000?
So yes, you can move money. Yes, you can move money to a special needs trust, and you can move money from a special needs trust to an ABLE account. But again, yeah, the main thing is you just absolutely do not want it to get over 100,000. And one question that we get all the time is, why should I have an ABLE account and a special needs trust? And that is important to know that an ABLE account can pay for rent. It can pay for food and shelter, like rent or house payments or food and shelter. An ABLE account can. A special needs trust can't. So SSI is designed to pay for food and shelter. So that's why a special needs trust cannot pay for that, and an ABLE account can. So one thing that you should know is that there is a Medicaid payback on an ABLE account, and also a first party special needs trust. There is a Medicaid payback on that. So a lot of times people don't max fund an ABLE account, because upon death of the individual with the disability, the remaining money in the ABLE account can go back to Medicaid. So a lot of people just, I call it playing the game, right? Like, we only have enough money in the ABLE account to cover the rent, or we only have enough money in the ABLE account to cover the tuition, or to cover whatever it is that we know that we're going to spend it out. So basically, if something happens to your loved one, there's basically not very much money in the ABLE account, and then they can't get something out of nothing. Okay. So on a first party special needs trust, there's 2 different special needs trusts when it comes to funding for special needs. The first party is the individual's money. This is money that they have earned. It could be a lawsuit or a settlement that goes directly, like scholarship refunds would be in that individual's name. So extra money like that would go into a first party special needs trust. there is a Medicaid payback on a first party special needs trust. When it comes to a third party special needs trust, there is no Medicaid payback. So this is when grandma and grandpa want to leave money to your loved one. This is when you have your life insurance proceeds directed to a special needs trust. This is the third party special needs trust. So like for my daughter, we have both the first party and the third party, but because it's needed because of a refund that she gets. But a lot of people don't need a first party trust. They basically just need the third party. So anyway, just like, we say work with a qualified special needs planner. When it comes to, when it comes to special needs planning, there's two people in your corner that you need. You need the special needs planner, but you also need the special needs attorney. Okay. So all attorneys are not created equally. They're all smart, but they're all smart in what they do. So you really want to work with a specialist as it relates to special needs planning when you're kind of getting ready to go down the highway of guardianship, or you're going down the highway of a special needs trust, or whether it's first party or third party. There's a UT special needs planning conference, and basically the attorneys that are really involved in that line of work really participate in that conference. That's something that we attend every year, and the laws change. So when you have a family attorney that, again, in their own right, they're very, very smart at what they do, but they're not specialists and they don't really know the laws and how the laws have changed and kind of those little loopholes with the special needs trust. That's why you don't want to do it yourself. That my DIY people of do it yourself and download your own documents. You don't want to do that. And you also don't want to work with an attorney that really doesn't have a background as it relates to special needs. There's too much on the line as far as waivers, as far as the SSI and Medicaid for an accidental mishap that could cause you to lose it all. Okay, so I think we may have another question. Okay. So what we have on the screen, and we've had here on the up for a while, and these are things that should be on your special needs planning radar. I know there are a lot. I know we've kind of touched on a little, some of them, a little bit through this presentation. But basically, how do we develop a comprehensive special needs care plan? So that's what we do. We help you come up with the number. What does it look like? What does future care look like? How much is it going to cost? What are we going to do? What impact is that going to have on my retirement? When can I leave? When can I leave the workplace? Am I going to have to work longer? Those types of things. So we talked about the waivers, SSI, SSDI, ABLE accounts, beneficiary designations. We hit on that. Directing child support to a first party special needs trust. This is a big deal. And this is something that we see and know on a weekly basis as an issue. So in the state of Texas, not everyone, but a lot of people have child support that is going to continue past age 18 for their special needs loved one. Okay. And it was never an issue before. And you guys went to regular divorce attorneys, not ones that were, nuanced in special needs. And they didn't know that we need to direct this child support to a special needs trust when the child turns 18. So the bottom line is if you're thinking about applying for SSI and Medicaid, and your child is about to turn 18 and you're getting child support that's going to continue past age 18, you might as well just not apply for SSI and Medicaid until you get that child support directed to a special needs trust. Because basically it's going to count as income against the child. They're not going to qualify. Social Security doesn't always catch that on the front end. And sometimes it could be 2 or 3, 4 years later that they say, oh, snap, we shouldn't have been paying you. Now you owe us all this money. Okay. So this is a really, really big deal. If you're going through a divorce, or if you know you have child support that's going to continue past age 18, work with the ex-spouse, get a court order to get the child support directed to a special needs trust. Of course, you've got to set up that trust. But that is something that needs to be on your radar for sure. Okay.
So we have another question. Can multiple people put money into an ABLE account yearly, such as grandparents and parents?
Basically, anybody can put money into an ABLE account, but you can only have one ABLE account per special needs individual. And a key with the ABLE account, we do have, again, basically every topic that we have on the screen right now, we have webinars on. And when we send out our recording later today of this presentation, you'll get an invitation to like and follow our YouTube channel, and our YouTube channel will have all of the recordings out there on these other topics. I'm sorry, repeat that question one more time. I just wanted to make sure I hit it.
Can multiple people put money
Oh.
into an ABLE account yearly?
So the deal is with the ABLE account that the disability had to start prior to age 26. Okay, and the answer is yes. Anybody can fund the ABLE account, but one per person, one per individual with disabilities. Okay, so we've talked about some special needs trusts and how to fund them. One of the things that we say, we're not here to step on anybody's toes, but start touring residential living facilities at age 15 or 16, partial residential, full residential, group homes. Start knowing what your options are. And this isn't how can you stick your loved one somewhere. That's not what I'm saying. But what you will find when you start touring some of these, like for instance, Brookwood is one. Marbridge is another. Now, these are private pay. They don't take waivers. There's a whole bunch of them out there that do take waivers if you're already on the list or if you're already getting a waiver. But some of these waiting lists can be 5 years. Okay. So deciding at age 22 of, oh my gosh, we should start looking at this. It's a bad time because it could be 5 more years before you could get in. So again, just like the waiver list, put yourself on the list. And if you come up and you need it and you qualify for it, great. And if you don't, so what? It didn't hurt anything to be on the list. Touring these facilities, put yourself on the list. If you come up on the waiting list, you have options. It doesn't mean you have to exercise those options. So give yourself some options. One of the big things that we hear all the time, guardianship, power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, supported decision-making, all buzzwords that we hear in the special needs community all the time. And if we have kids that are kind of coming around the bend to age 18, then we're thinking about these things. So not everybody needs guardianship. Okay, so we do have nonverbal, we do have IDD, we do have kids that definitively do and will always need guardianship. We also have some kids that may need guardianship right now because they're not there yet, but we're still hopeful and optimistic that they're going to get there. And they may be delayed developmentally 4, 5, 6, maybe more years behind their peers, but eventually they may get there. So guardianship is not forever. It can be rolled back. Okay. So again, working with a qualified attorney on this will help you determine what is the best path forward for you. Honestly, power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney is a good idea for all parents for children that are over 18, not just parents that have children with disabilities. Because they're still navigating and kind of figuring out how to do some of the stuff financially. But the healthcare power of attorney, when you send your 18-year-old off to college, that healthcare power of attorney is good if there's an accident or an illness or anything like that. Quite honestly, if you don't have that and you've sent your child without disabilities off to college and there's an issue, nobody has to talk to you, and you're at their mercy on whether or not they're going to or not. So this is just a good thing. And while I'm in there, I know we're talking about special needs, but this is a good time to talk to your parents about this. Your aging parents, grandparents. Is there a power of attorney? Is there healthcare power of attorney? Don't wait till somebody's had a stroke, till somebody's incapacitated to be like, oh snap, this there's nothing. So think about this for your own self. What do you have in place for yourself? Think about this for your 18 plus kids. And then also think about having these meaningful conversations with your parents, grandparents, or whatever is applicable. Okay, post-high school education options. We did a whole Zoom on that yesterday. Kind of just talking about some different options, how to pay for it, what to think about, talking about some accommodations and stuff like that. We've got the waiting list, and we kind of talked about that. And I guess this is on there twice, the child support. And basically, again, we talked about our YouTube channel. So we'll send that out to everybody. So I'd like to just open it up to any additional questions. Our contact information is on here. If you'd like a free personalized consultation, I know with this many people on, there are so many unique scenarios and situations. And I pretty much promise with our years of experience, it's probably something that it's probably nothing that we have not heard. So, wherever you are in your journey, whether you've done a lot of planning or you've done a little planning, what we say is it's not about looking back. We get people that call us and they say, oh my gosh, we would be embarrassed for you to know what we haven't done. or or we got started years ago and life got busy and then we kind of put it on the shelf and we haven't looked at it anymore. And then before you know it, oh my gosh, my child's 18 or over 18 or something like that, and I really need some help. So wherever you are in the journey, you're here today, and we've kind of we talked about a lot of really important topics that should be on your radar. But we're here to help you get to where you're going. And like I said, I think I said this at the beginning, is I just know for me, this is what I do. This is all I've ever done professionally. Um, but I'm a mom first with kids with disability, and I'm just telling you, this period, I'm past it. I have a younger one that's coming, but I feel like I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and I've got it all down pat for the younger one. But it was really a stressful time when my older daughter was going through this and trying to over around it through, and how do we not mess this up, and all of these types of things. And so if you're feeling that way, you're definitely not alone, and we can definitely help. So feel free to reach out to us. And I'm just going to turn everything back over to you, Jan, and you can just go through any other questions that we might have.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. So how can we get a list of how to find private facilities is one of the questions.
You can email us directly and ask us for this list. So we definitely do have a couple of PDFs. We have actually 3 that are pretty good. One is post-secondary education options and transition programs. One is partial residential care facilities, and one is full residential care facilities. And so what we say on that, again, we don't partner with any of these organizations. They don't work for Consolidated Planning Group. We don't work for them. We don't vet them. Some of them take waivers, some of them don't. But we do have links to their website. And some of them serve specifics, like some of them might serve specifically Down syndrome. Some of them might, serve autism. So you got to do some research on your own and kind of seeing where it, may be a good fit. But if you email us, we'll be happy to send you those PDFs, and you can kind of look at it. And we don't promise that it's all inclusive. I'm sure there's probably some that we've missed along the way, but any one that we know or that we've heard is good, they're on the list. So
the next question is, can you create your own group home? Would this make us a class or HCS provider?
So this is something, yes, you can create your own group home, and I would say I would defer to HCS on that. So as far as becoming an HCS provider and all those types of things, I that is kind of out of my wheelhouse. So I would defer to that. But we do have a lot of families that have a vision. They either have, they start a group home. They have a vision of starting a group home. Like I had a family a few weeks ago that, I think grandma passed away, and grandma's house was right next door to theirs. So they wanted to have a group home for their high functioning adult with disabilities, but they were kind of right there. So it was kind of handy. And it was just going to be a small group home for like 3 other individuals or something like that. So, and there's all kinds of considerations with that of, are you going to take waivers? Are you not going to take waivers? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? And a lot of, I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer, but sometimes people don't want to take the waivers because of all of the hoops and loops and the red tape and things like that. So definitely reach out and kind of reach out to HHS on that. That would be kind of take a deeper dive with them on that.
Okay, how long can a person receive SSI, and what is the difference between SSI and SSDI?
Okay, that is a great question, and we definitely go deep on that with our Social Security webinar. But so SSDI, so SSI is a means-based program. Okay, so this is based off of assets. SSDI is based off of working quarters. So I've actually had people call me, and they're very angry. They're mad. They got the letter that their child doesn't qualify for disability, or their adult, doesn't qualify for Social Security disability. What do you mean? They're in a chair. They don't walk. They don't talk. They have a G tube. What do you mean they're not disabled? Are you kidding me? So that happens. But what SSDI is based off of working quarters. Okay. So every quarter that we're working, we have working quarters. So SSDI, I mean, for a full, you can have a minimum of 6 quarters to qualify for SSDI for a young person. Okay. For a person that's had a long working, it's 40 quarters, 10 years of work experience, and you qualify for SSDI. But there's something called RSDI. Okay. So basically, when your child is qualified for SSI and Medicaid, that means that the Social Security Administration has deemed that they are disabled. So they qualify for SSI and Medicaid, which is the means-based, and you can't have more than the $2,000 one house, one car that we talked about. But when you, as a parent, mom or dad, even if you're divorced, mom or dad of the individual with disabilities retires through the Social Security Administration or becomes disabled through the Social Security Administration, if your child's disability started prior to age 22, they are what Social Security refers to as a DAC, disabled adult child, under a parent's record. So basically, when you retire through Social Security or you go on disability through Social Security, your DAC, your disabled adult child, is entitled to 50% of your Social Security benefit. And for as long as they live, as long as you live, it's 50%, as long as they remain disabled. And upon your death, that individual will be entitled for 75% of that benefit. So again, we have all types of, oh my gosh, we could talk all day about the rules of Social Security. We are certified, a certified a National Social Security advisor. So we go deep and wide with Social Security, but that was a very, very good question. We got just a few minutes left. Any other questions?
Yes, two more questions. So can a supported decision-making agreement be used to make medical decisions for an adult child?
Not really. No. I'm not, some people love the supported decision-making agreement. I find it questionable. I mean, it's like you either have healthcare power of attorney and power of attorney. If I had a supported decision-making agreement, I would have healthcare power of attorney and power of attorney too. And one thing that I would like to say is, if you guys have got kids that are staying in the public school system till 22, it may be important to have that supported decision-making agreement. You can be in those ARDs if you want to, but honestly, a power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney would be better if you've got a kid that's staying in the school system, because honestly, I don't see schools giving an issue. I honestly don't. I see schools really working with families when it comes to the ARDs and the IEPs and, all of those types of things. But technically, if you don't have those documents in place, technically the school doesn't have to sit down with you, whenever your child, legally, they don't have to. And I don't see that being an ongoing issue, but it could be. So we see definitely more if you're going to go down the supported decision making. Basically, the kid can say at any time that they revoke the supported decision making, and supported decision making basically just says in writing what you already have the right as a parent, in my opinion. As parents, we are often coaches with our kids, our young adults, or we're often coaches. So basically, it says that you can provide coaching and kind of advice. They don't have to take it. They don't have to do anything about it. That can be an issue.
Okay, and then my child is 19 and has Down syndrome. We hope to find a suitable residential facility for him. We've been on the waiting list for 10 years. How do we find a suitable facility?
So yes, that would be where I would say go ahead. And so two things. The LIDA, so if you're Harris Center or whoever you are, whoever your LIDA organization is, reach out and make sure that your child is on their radar, because sometimes they do some testing there to identify this could be where there might be some diversion slots. And then again, the list, you can email us for those lists of the other facilities that are out there, and putting yourself on multiple waiting lists. So I'm not sure what waiting list, if you're on a waiting list for care, or if you're on the waiting list for a waiver, which is probably for sure you're on the waiting list for the waiver. But you can put yourself on multiple waiting lists for facilities around town, and it depends on whether you rely on a waiver to pay for that for you, or whether you can self-fund or self-pay some of these things. And there's a lot of options. So some of these group homes and other things like that, you know, they're actually on that HHS website. There can be a list out there and for available slots, home and community-based living arrangements. And it'll also tell you if they have any beds open or things like that as well. So again, email us for a list and you can kind of look at that and kind of vet some of those and try to get yourself on some of the other lists.
Okay, that's all of our questions. So
Well, I just want to thank Allison for just the wealth of information that she was willing to share with us on just answering your questions. I just want to add one note. If you are on a waiver list, make sure you check in once a year to make sure you retain your status. And again, if you need the support, Consolidated Planning Group obviously has a lot of information to share. And I want to thank Jan also for facilitating this event today. And any other closing remarks, Allison?
No, just thanks for having us. And like I said, no matter where you are, you're not behind, you are where you are and you're here today. So just take that next step and get started. And really, a good, special needs planner is going to build on the foundation that you already have. They're going to seek to understand what you've already done. They're going to do a lot of listening about what's important to you and what your needs are for your family and what you want. And they're really going to design that plan based off of those things. When it comes to special needs planning and it comes to the things that we're talking about today, there is no cookie cutter plan. It is not a one size fits all. So anyway, glad you're here. Glad we could share. And like I said, we'll get this recording out, and you can like and follow our YouTube channel for other recordings. And we'll also reach out any other additional Zooms that we have, going on. I think we put out a monthly email that will just say, here are the events that we have for the upcoming months. And so any that you want to jump on, we're certainly happy to have you. So thanks for joining us. Thanks so much, ladies. Take care, and let us know if we can be of assistance to you going forward.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.